a herd of rare black rhino.
We're gonna go now.
Can a team move 5 of these aggressive beasts almost 2,000 kilometers across southern Africa to a safe haven?
Okay, visual, we got it.
Or will these dangerous animals prove too hard to handle?
They're wild animals and they can't really be tamed, no.
Hold it, push her down, push her down, push her down.
In South Africa, a team of vets and animal trackers are in the middle of an ambitious rescue operation.
Okay, visual, right.
They're going to ship a herd of black rhino across the continent to Zambia. But first, they have to catch them.
Once we've located the rhino on the ground, we then radio the helicopter and he should then be able to locate the rhino from the air.
Okay, we got it visual. Quite a largish animal.
In Zambia, poaching has completely wiped out this endangered species. So this team is part of a $5 million operation to airlift 25 of these precious animals to a wildlife sanctuary in Zambia, where they hope they will breed again. Their new home will be the North Luangwa National Park. Here the rhino will be free to roam in sanctuaries spread over 4,000 square kilometers.
This entire bowl, you can see this kind of ridge around, that's the current rhino sanctuary setup. See these hills on our left here, and then out to your right you can see the hills as well. So within that is the rhino sanctuary.
So far, they've moved 20 rhino, 5 at a time over several years. Now they're ready for the final 5 to complete the rescue plan. Each rhino is worth about $100,000. They're being donated by the Shushluwi Umfolozi Park in South Africa, where the animals thrive. Shipping the rhino almost 2,000 kilometers from the park in South Africa to Zambia is a huge challenge. The journey would take several days by road. As they'd need to be tranquilized the whole time, the vets think this is too risky. So they opt for a faster, more direct route, by air. But the rhino are so heavy, they'll have to charter the big boy of aviation, the C-130 Hercules. This plane can carry up to 20 tons and is often used for disaster relief missions. It's ideal for taking off and landing on short bush airstrips. The only snag is the cost, $95,000 a flight. First task, find the rhino in the dense bush. It's a dangerous mission. Black rhino are aggressive and when they charge can run at 55 kilometers per hour, faster than an Olympic sprinter. They've even been known to attack helicopters as they take off.
Looking good, Kira. Yeah, ready to go down.
Vet Dr. Dave Cooper leads the helicopter team.
It's important to keep an eye on the animal all the time, and this is the advantage of the helicopter. It's not easy when you've got a thick canopy. Trying to go into a thicket like that, you can't see them at all. So you rely on kind of looking for movement.
Karen Odendahl works with the ground crew.
Once we get close there, we'll radio the helicopters and guide them in to try and get them to see the rhino from the air.
To breed healthy offspring, the rhino sent to Zambia must be as diverse as possible. Dave needs DNA samples to identify which ones will go. To do this, he first darts the animal with the tranquilizer.
The drug we're using is about 10,000 times more potent than morphine. At the smallest drop, it could be fatal to a human being. So when I'm working, I have to be pretty careful about how I handle the syringe and the needle.
The ground crew spot their target hiding in the bush.
I'm going to guide the helicopter in now. Vere, kom in vir Karen.
Okay, visual, right. Okay, we got the visual. She's giving us an indication, so we got it.
Darting from the air takes great skill. Dave uses a special needle. A black rhino's skin is extremely tough to protect it from predators. It can be up to 25 millimeters thick. An ordinary hollow injection needle will clog up with skin, so Dave uses an ingenious dart. It has a solid tip and 2 holes on either side to release the tranquilizer under the skin. His best chance of success is if the dart hits the skin surface at 90 degrees, so he gets maximum muscle penetration. If all goes well, the drug should take effect in less than 5 minutes. Dave spots his target.
Got it visual, you can just tell her we got it visual. Okay, we got it visual. Thanks, Karen. I'll talk to you later.
Excellent. They've got the rhino in visual. The minute the dart's in, they'll let me know, and then they'll try and guide us to where the rhino is once it's gone down.
Okay, let's get him in a little bit of a better area. Dart looks okay, here. Perfect. Okay, currently you've got the dart in.
Alright, copy, we'll head in that direction.
The animal's just about to go down.
Dave does a first aid check to make sure the rhino is okay.
Quick look at the respiration. Nice, even breathing. Looking good. Just going to treat the dart wound while we wait for the ground team to arrive.
The team works quickly, collecting the DNA samples. They know the longer the rhino is down, the greater the risk of irreversibly damaging its legs.
No, you guys got here very quickly. Well done. Everything is fine in terms of the animal. He's breathing very nicely and very relaxed, and I'm very happy. He didn't run very far. He only ran for 3 minutes, which is great. We're going to be collecting some genetic samples. It's very nice to keep a record of the sort of parentage and the lineage.
As these black rhino are among the last on Earth, they give each one an ID tag.
Tragically, it is this horn that has led to the rhino's demise, to the fact that rhino populations have been decimated throughout Africa.
Before the team airlifts the rhino to Zambia, they prepare them for the journey by holding them in pens or bomas. They stay here for 6 weeks so they can get used to captivity and human contact. It would be highly dangerous to transport a wild rhino that's not been through this regime. Any animals with attitude are released back into the park. The team has picked 4 females and 1 bull for this move. Each rhino has its own pen to stop them fighting. Alison Kennedy Benson helps look after the rhino's well-being. It takes weeks of care and patience to calm these highly strung animals.
It's all right. Come on, Angel.
Just hang out with them all day long, talk to them, get them used to my voice, used to my smell, used to me being around. And then I travel with them. And if they've got, I'm almost like a security blanket. If something they know and trust and they're relaxed around that's the same in a new environment, new smells, new people, then they tend to settle a little bit faster.
Come on, Angel. You're okay.
I get very attached to the rhinos. I've gotten to know them very quickly. They're each very unique.
Good girl.
Even rhinos that are very comfortable, that you can scratch and hand feed, that seem extremely relaxed, they're wild animals, and they can't really be tamed, no. I'm probably the luckiest person around. I get the zoo experience, I get the hands-on, the relationship, the trust with the animal, but then I get to open that gate and watch them walk out into the bush and be rhino, and that's number one. I mean, I really don't think I'd want to do anything else.
After 6 weeks in the pens, the rhino are finally ready to fly to Zambia. Moving any animal inside an aircraft is risky, especially a 1-ton wild rhino. So the team has built a sturdy crate for each animal, made from hardwood planks lined with steel plate. Being stuck in a crate is a huge change for a wild animal. Alison gets them used to it by making the crate part of the holding pen. She lures them inside with food. The team prepares to sedate the rhino to stop them injuring themselves during the journey. Vet Pete Morkel oversees how much tranquilizer they need.
The problem is you can have an animal bashing around, getting really hot and stressed out inside that crate. So the secret is to keep that animal tranquilized the whole way. That does mean I might have to inject it a number of times during the trip, but to me that's the way to do it. Make no mistake, they can kill themselves very smartly in a crate if they're not adequately tranquilized.
Dave's noticed that one animal will require special attention.
One of the rhinos we've got in the Bahamas is pregnant. However, what we were concerned about is just how far pregnant she was. So as a result, we've scanned this animal just to check that she's not, imminent.
Judging when a rhino is about to give birth is a difficult challenge for vets. The gestation period is very long at 16 months, and the ample belly of a rhino makes it hard to interpret ultrasound scans. As the fetus grows, it drops down further into the abdomen. 8 months into the pregnancy, the fetus can be so deep inside its mother's body that scan images become too fuzzy to read. If the rhino calf is almost due, they need to know, because if they inject the mother with tranquilizer, it could starve the calf of oxygen. There's no clear picture from the scan, so Dave thinks this mother is midway through her pregnancy.
This is the ideal sort of stage of pregnancy where the fetus is about the size of a domestic cat, perfectly recognizable as a little rhino. The concern is that if she's too far pregnant, she might give birth before she's had time to adapt to a new environment and be able to give that calf the best chance.
There are a lot of risks in the whole process. Obviously, you're darting it with chemicals. There's a risk there. The reaction to the chemicals, it could run around, it could bash itself on the poles, if it whacks something hard enough, it could break nasal bones, which is, if infected, a fatal injury. and then you're putting it in a box. This is a black rhino that you're putting into a small box, and then you're going to lift that box up and you're going to put it on the back of a truck, and then you're going to drive on the road, and then you're going to put it in an airplane. So every single step there's heaps of risks involved, but everyone's sort of prepared for the impossible.
After 6 weeks in the pens, it's the day of the big rhino move.
Everybody's ready, so yeah, it'll be good. Always nervous, always excited, but you're not going to be on your toes if you're not at least a little nervous.
The team works through the night loading the rhino for the 4-hour drive to the airport to ensure an early flight departure next morning.
You never know what's going to happen on the road, what's going to happen at the airport. You just want to try and just catch as much time as you can.
To lure the rhinos from their pens into the shipping crates, they'll need to give them a shot of tranquilizer. If they knock the rhino out completely for the 20-hour journey, it could affect their breathing. They must get the dose just right, so they're sedated but can still stand. After weeks of working so closely with these animals, Alison finds it hard to watch.
It's not pleasant when they're huffing and puffing or bashing around a little bit, but unfortunately that's all part of it, and that's what the drugs do sometimes. But they seem to all be calmed down now, so hopefully it continues through the rest of the trip.
Dave worries about the pregnant female's behavior.
In the last 2 weeks, I've immobilized her twice. She didn't go down and wasn't as relaxed as I expected her to be. So I'm kind of anticipating that we're going to have possibly a little bit of a problem with this, so we're going to go slightly higher on the dose level.
It's a tricky balance, because they want the rhinos to walk themselves into the crate when they are given a signal.
Usually they're going to be attracted to some disturbance. What we're going to do is just flap a bit of sacking around on the end of a pole, and that'll draw the animal into the crate.
This bizarre herding trick exploits a weakness in the rhino's eyesight. Black rhino have eyes on either side of their skull. This gives them a wide field of vision so that they can spot approaching danger. But their forward vision is limited. They find it hard to judge depth of field, and they're also nearsighted. Because black rhino are naturally inquisitive, they will head straight towards something they can't see clearly, like the flag, to check out if it's a threat.
Piece of cake. Piece of cake. There we go.
After 15 minutes of coaxing, the first female is finally in the crate. Pete blindfolds the rhino to curb her curiosity.
It looks maybe a little crazy to be in there, but I'm sort of keeping my distance. The worst case, it'll push me against the side of the crate. I'm trying to make sure I'm not going to get in front of the horn.
But blindfolding isn't enough. Rhino have evolved acute senses of smell and hearing to make up for their poor vision. Their ears rotate independently and swivel in all directions. They are constantly moving and on the alert, like radar receivers, even when the animals appear to be asleep. So despite being drugged, the rhino can still react to sudden noises.
The one thing that remains very strong is their ability to hear. So you'll notice I'm putting cotton wool in their ears.
They'll all have earplugs for the flight. The team will top up the tranquilizers every 4 hours to keep the rhino sedated throughout the journey. Alison keeps the injection site sterile.
I am official bum scrubber and just scrubbing them with a veterinary disinfectant and then spraying the injection sites with wound spray just to try and prevent any infection, because they obviously will be getting top-ups and injections throughout the trip. Very glamorous.
Pete takes one more precaution to protect the rhino from their own horns. Unlike many other animals' horns, the horns of a rhino aren't bone. They're made from a tough fibrous protein called keratin, the same material as human fingernails. The fibers mat together into a horn shape that grows from deep within the skin. The front horn can grow up to 1 meter and is extremely tough. It can punch a hole in a truck door, but it's also vulnerable to damage. If the sharp tip gets stuck, the horn could break off at the base, and the resulting tissue damage could lead to infection. Unlike the poachers who saw the whole horn off at the base, Pete only cuts off the tip. The rhino can't feel a thing.
There's no life in that horn. It's just like trimming your nails, really.
The horn grows back at 6 centimeters per year. It's half an hour before midnight. It's taken 2.5 hours to load 4 rhino.
We've got 4 in the boxes. We've just got one that's hopefully going to walk into his box any second. So I think we're doing pretty well. Hopefully we'll be on the road by 12:30.
But the last rhino puts up a fight.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay.
Now the team can load the crates onto trucks.
It's gone very, very well. It's kind of how you like to see it go. We're happy.
1:30 a.m. They finally hit the road for the 4-hour drive to King Shaka Airport. The Hercules takes off in 7 hours, so time is tight. With 5 wild rhino crammed in small crates on speeding trucks, a lot can still go wrong.
It can push and strain and damage the muscles of its legs. It can damage its neck muscles. It can traumatize its lips. So there's quite a lot of damage it can do to itself if we don't sedate it adequately in the crate.
The team arrives at the airport at 5:30 a.m. They have only 3 hours to load 5 tons of sleepy rhino into the Hercules. They prepare a pallet for each crate. Like high-tech kitty litter, these absorbent crystals can soak up more than 200 times their own weight in liquid. They want to avoid urine damaging the airframe.
Each crate's being covered in plastic, just in case the rhinos urinate in the crates in flight, it doesn't get all over the plane. going onto the plane now. The other 4 are on the truck waiting to go. You know, we didn't really know what to expect, but everything's gone smoothly, and I think we're doing very well. We aim for about 3 hours, so hopefully we'll be wheels up by about 9 o'clock, but we'll see.
With live cargo, the loading is critical. The Rhino's crate is just big enough for them to stand and lie down, but small enough to stop them moving around and hurting themselves. The crew must make sure they don't load the Rhino facing backwards. If they do, there's a risk the Rhino will bash their horns against the rear of the crate on takeoff. This could crush their nasal bones and eventually lead to septicemia. So it's vital that all the Rhino face forward for a safe takeoff. The pilot hopes his passengers won't get too rattled if the flight's bumpy. The last thing he needs is 5 tons of Rhino lurching about.
In flight, these rhinos do get agitated in the little cages they are in, and they will move around the cage, causing an abnormal type of movement like a turbulence in the aircraft. Unfortunately, where we're landing today, it's a very rough runway. It'll be very different to a normal smooth runway that you land on.
At 8:30 a.m. The Hercules finally leaves South Africa. It's a 4-hour flight to the sanctuary in Zambia. In the cargo bay, Dave and Pete keep the animals calm. They'll top up the tranquilizer regularly to prevent stress. Almost 2,000 kilometers away in Zambia, runway manager George Kasakela prepares for touchdown. A bush landing strip with no tarmac needs a different kind of air traffic control.
I'm looking in the airstrip to see if there is no potholes, no animals in the airstrip. We have zebras, impala, and other animals. They do come and eat because we have fresh grass in the airstrip.
Animals aren't his only worry. George has an eagle eye for rogue rocks.
This is the rocks which I wanted to take out from the runway. Once the wheel hit on top of these rocks, can jump and hit to the plane, perhaps the plane can be crushed. Very important job. Very important indeed.
12:30 p.m. The Hercules descends on its final approach. The team prepares for a rough landing.
Okay, we're gonna go.
The runway is only 900 meters long. Captain de Villiers throws the engines into reverse thrust to bring the massive Hercules to a halt.
We were very lucky today with good weather. Where we come in here, we try to put it down exactly where the runway starts, so very little room for errors.
Now the delicate task of offloading the Rhino begins. Surprisingly, it's the females that react most violently towards each other. At 1:45 p.m. The team must get the 5 rhino to their new pens by sunset because there's no electric lighting in the park. It's too dangerous to wrangle these wild animals in the dark.
It's almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I woke up at 5:15 yesterday morning. So however many hours that is, I'm not going to attempt to do the math now.
They need to unload quickly, but a problem with one of the crane trucks is going to slow them down.
We've only got one crane truck, unfortunately, now. The other one's broken down, so this one is going to do all the offloading. It's unfortunate, but that's life. Yeah. That's why we've got 2 crane trucks.
Pete checks the rhino are still sedated enough for the short road trip to the pens. There's 3 hours of daylight left. With only one working crane truck, the team struggles to stay on schedule. They unload the first female into pen number 1. Within 60 seconds of receiving the antidote, it should reverse the effect of the tranquilizer. Although she's still groggy, the rhino reacts aggressively to the slamming door. It takes 20 minutes to unload each rhino into its pen. The bull makes itself at home in the center pen with females on either side. All 5 rhino are snug in their pens by sunset. It's the dawn of a new era for black rhino in Zambia. The team monitors their health for 2 weeks before they're released. Alison introduces them to the local food, as much of the browse that grows here is different.
We're just making sure that everyone's got a little bit of everything so that we can expose all the rhino to all the different types of browse that they'll be getting here. So yeah, we just make sure that everyone's got A, enough browse, and B, all the different types of browse. This one here they would have had in South Africa, and this is one of their favorites here so far.
These heavyweights need a lot of fuel, so it's important they learn to like the local fare. Black rhino can eat a lot of different foods because they have a unique top lip that works like a finger to hook onto foliage. They can eat over 200 different types of vegetation. They particularly enjoy hard, thorny plants. Unfortunately, it has a relatively inefficient gut. Almost half its food passes through undigested. This means the animal needs to eat a lot of food, more than 22 kilograms per day. It spends a third of the day and much of the night munching away.
The rhinos are all doing really well. They're very relaxed. We had a couple personality issues with this one, so she and her next door neighbor had to be put in timeout, so they're no longer neighbors. But since we separated them, they're quite happy. The pregnant rhino is actually doing very well. She was very huffy puffy when she was in South Africa, and she's relaxed a lot. And I think she's just enjoying the quiet. They're definitely a lot more relaxed with me. They didn't really eat from my hand all that often. Now they'll take food constantly. We're already over the biggest hurdle, settling in. So yeah, as long as they continue to do as well as they have the past couple days, ultimately saying goodbye on the release side.
So how do rhino say goodbye?
Generally, my rhinos all speak American with funny accents.
After 2 weeks, the final 5 rhino are ready for release into the wild. But they can't just open the gate and let them go. Once again, they'll be tranquilized for the journey to the release site, where they'll join the first 20 rhino. They'll fit transmitters to the rhino so they can track their movements.
The implants in the rhino horn is VHF transmitters, and this is picking up the frequency. And I've got all the animals that we've got transmitters with in here, and then you get a direction using the antenna. And over time, you work out from the strength of the signal how close that is or isn't.
1, 2, 3, yeah!
Back at the holding pens, the team gets ready to release one of the rhino. They'll release one at a time, at least 24 hours apart, starting with the females. This gives them a chance to settle in before the big bull is let loose.
I've just darted her with a low dose of tranquilizer, basically, and it'll take about 5 minutes before she shows anything. Come, girl.
Once again, the old flag comes out to lure the dozy rhino into the crate. Only this time, she stops on the threshold and refuses to budge. Pete will need to adopt a more hands-on approach. She's actually fallen asleep.
Okay, here we go.
They're having trouble shifting this 1-ton rhino. Now it's Ed's turn to give a helpful shove.
Okay, that helped. That helped. I don't want her pushing and shoving and, sweating away, but on the other hand, I don't want her too lively and then hurting herself either. She's reasonably alert. I'll probably have to give her something pretty soon just to tranquilize her a little more.
Before releasing the newly arrived rhino, Ed checks the radio receiver to make sure there are no other rhino nearby that might cause trouble.
She's probably 400 or 500 meters off this way, so we're fine to bring the tractor and the crate and everything through here.
After a 3-hour journey, the moment has come.
1, 2, 3, yes. 1, 2, 3, yes.
As they drag the young female out of the crate, she suddenly wakes up.
It's okay, she's going anywhere. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. She's not going anywhere. Okay, let's see if she can come down. Okay, that's it. Hold it, hold it, hold it, just like it. Just hold it. Come over the eye. Just stand next to it. Stand next to it, that's all. Okay. Let her come. Let her come. Let her come. Push, 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 push. Okay, hold her, hold her. Push her down, push her down, push her down, push her down. Push, 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 push. Push. Okay, it's okay. She's fine. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So they can always keep track of her, Pete fits a radio transmitter inside her horn. He seals the cavity with dental cement. He injects antibiotics to prevent infection. Finally, Pete gives her an antidote shot.
She could come up quickly, that's why we're going back as far as possible. We don't want her legging it down the road after us.
Within seconds, she's up on her feet, eager to explore her new home. To track the rhino's progress in the park, Ed takes to the air and tunes into the transmitter.
She's right there. She heard the plane and said, well, so we just leave her be. I don't want to chase her, but she's in a fantastic area. I mean, the browse there is phenomenal. She's right next to the Moleshi River. Now that we have pinpointed the position of this female rhino, we can direct the law enforcement scouts into the right area for her protection.
It's the final day of the operation. Alison is up early. With the 4 females already released, the big bull is the last to go.
Very excited to be able to go along with this guy. You know, it's nice to see the whole process. It's nice to see them out in the bush. He's going to be the last rhino of the founder population released into North Luangwa, so it's an exciting day. He's quite a bit bigger than all the other ladies, and so it's going to take a bit more pushing and pulling to get him onto the trailer. Well, the big bull just arrived at the release site, and so we're just starting to get the crate offloaded, and yeah, I'll let him go shortly. A lot of manpower for this guy because he's so big and heavy, but I think we'll be fine.
Those people on the front, the body as you pull, eh? 1, 2, 3, yes! 1, 2, 3, yes!
This heavyweight is almost 1.5 tons.
Lift the head. 1, 2, 3, yes! 1, 2, 3, yes! Yes! It's good.
By inspecting how worn this bull's teeth are, Pete can estimate his age. Black rhino live to about 40. This bull may look old and ragged, but he's younger than he seems.
I put him just over 20, probably 22, something like that, 22, 23. He's still a youngster.
After fitting the bull's transmitter, they're ready to release the final rhino into the sanctuary. For Alison, this is the last goodbye.
Yeah, it's great to see him out. You know, it's nice to have him in the bomus and get to have fun with him, but this is how it should be. So it's always, it's kind of the best and worst moment because you're saying goodbye, but it's how it should be. So now it's great.
The ground crew make a hasty retreat as Pete injects the antidote. It's a proud day for Ed and the team.
It's the only black rhino population in the country. It's the first successful completion of a founder population back into a former range state anywhere on the continent as far as I'm aware. Now we just need to make them a free-roaming population. That's the hard part, because that's security, that's protection, that's keeping them alive. But we're nearly there.
It's taken 7 years to bring 25 black rhino to North Luangwa. An animal that had been driven to extinction now has a future in Zambia.